Greetings. I am a representative of the anti-Semite movement. These videos are not edited. They are AI assisted and read from script. Today's subject is Jesus died not for our sins. It has been stated that Jesus died on the cross for our sins. Let us examine this concept. For example, just as another person cannot breathe the oxygen in the atmosphere, and from their breathing, we as well are given breath, through their breathing, this does not happen. We all must breathe on our own. Just as a person cannot sleep for us and we receive rest, we must sleep ourselves to replenish when rest is needed. Just as a person cannot eat for us and we become fed, just as a person cannot drink water for us and we become hydrated, neither can another person exercise and from their exercising we become fit. Just as we cannot be sinful and another person takes responsibility for our sinfulness as we continue to sin. This analogy draws a powerful perspective on individual responsibility for one's own sinfulness or righteousness. Just as no one can perform basic physical functions like breathing, eating, drinking, or sleeping for another person, it suggests that the same principle applies to sinful responsibility. This view implies that each person must actively seek and maintain our own sin-free state through our righteous conduct and choices of behavior, rather than claiming anyone else carries the burden of our sins or are able to absolve us or clear us from the consequences. That anyone else carries the burden of our sins or are able to absolve us or clear us from the consequences of sin we have committed. This would be very unfair and a grave injustice, like a person falsely accused and convicted for a crime another person committed. We would think this to be a grave injustice, would we not? In this understanding, Jesus' life and teachings would serve as a guide, an example to demonstrate what it means to live according to divine principles and practices, rather than being seen as taking on the sins of others through his crucifixion. Jesus' example is correctly viewed as a model for others to follow, illustrating the path to a sin-free life. His sacrifice becomes an act that shows the extent of dedication we all must have to live according to God's commandments, even in the face of suffering, adversity, and death. This perspective stresses personal responsibility. Each individual is accountable for our own choices and behavior, bearing the full weight of our behavior in reflection and in accordance with penalties occurring due to violations against God's law. By following God's commandments and striving to live a sin-free life, each person takes responsibility for our own sin-free state of being. It suggests that salvation and a sin-free life is derived from one's own commitment to God's commandments rather than through the intercession, or actions of another person. In this view, the ultimate goal is an individual's transformation into a sin-free state achieved through obedience and practice, rather than relying on another's sacrifice. Please tune in for part 2 of Jesus Died Not for Our Sin. Peace.